Are we live?
We live.
Good evening, everybody. Before I even say the rest of the good evening, let me apologize for being so late. We had a few technical difficulties, but we're here. It's your favorite time on a Wednesday. Tonight is gonna be myself, Rajiv Wallace, and Renee Francis. It's gonna be
Francis, hey.
We're gonna be co-hosting tonight. And tonight our guest is going to be Mr. Danielle Fadelle. We're not gonna keep him waiting in the lobby too long because we are already late. So, Mr. Fadelle, join us.
Yo.
Hey.
Good evening.
Live.
Welcome to Talk the Ting.
Good to be here, man. Thanks for having me. It feels like the Breakfast Club. I try to tell y'all. It's like the Breakfast Club to me.
We're so excited to have you.
Before we continue with the festivities, just want to remind you guys that the store is open, the shop open. We see a lot of people didn't take advantage of the sale, so we take that to mean that everybody buy all of their merchandise already, or that some of you guys forget about the sale. Go ahead on the store, check us out, get your t-shirts. I know it's too hot, it might be too hot now for hoodie. Get your t-shirts, get your gear, get your cups. We have everything there. And if we don't have something that you want, send us a message on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Tell us, I want jeans in the Talk the Ting logo, and we'll check you out. All right, Danielle, Renee, take it away.
Danielle Fadelle, the one and only. Oh my goodness, we go way back. And first things first, we want to thank you for coming on the show. We know you're a busy man. You're wearing many hats, jack of all trades. So we're glad to have you here. It's important to showcase up and coming Dominicans who are successful abroad as well as on the island. So we want to just introduce our viewers to who Danielle Fadelle is. So if you can just give us a little intro, tell us where you grew up and like what school you went to in both in Dominica and Canada, and we will pick that up after your intro and kind of get into some serious questions.
Don't rush too much for the Dominica part, eh? So we want to know what school you go.
Okay. So Dominica, Danielle grew up in Goodwill, right? So I'm a Goodwill boy, right? Went to Convent Prep, then SMA. That's where I was, right? My other brothers was there. I have two brothers, my sister. Everybody know them as well in their own space. Check. We can probably touch on that later. But SMA, that's where I was between 2001 is when I started, graduated 2006. In that time, I was on the OECS Dominica swim team. I was competing. So like you had Devin last week. Yeah. So I was there as well from like 99, 2000, 2001, went to St. Lucia, went to Martinique. We won a couple of medals, which was dope. Got my first medal actually with Dominica, for Dominica.
Wow.
When we were partnering. It was like a friendly match because our team was really small, right? Yeah. So we were maybe 16 or something like that first year. And then it was me and Lloyd Phillip. They paired us up with two other swimmers from St. Lucia. We ran a race, we got some medals, we got to come home with something. So that was fun. Did that for a few more years. Through Dominica, it's like swimming was actually like a big part of my life, like going through SMA until I got to like fourth form, which is when I started to dabble in music. Around that time, I started to meet like the other guys who lived in Goodwill, and that was like the origin of the original Cross Vibes band, right? So they're all on Rose Street. That's with like guys like Nigel Henry, Brent, Craig, Arden, right? This is like 2003, 4, 5, 6, that time there at the very beginning.
Hold on. Before you got into the music, where in Dominica all you were swimming? Because I mean, I don't know too many people in Dominica.
Attention, man.
Rockaway.
Yeah. So for swimming, we were at Donkey Beach or Rockaway Beach. I can't remember. It's like right after the Cove right now. So if you went to the Cove, And then
Yeah.
there was like a little path, like a trail. You go straight down there and it would bring you to the beach. So it was like every Saturday, you're on the beach swimming at 9 till 12, right? That's like, well, that was like the training sessions. Like if you were learning to swim, you were there at that time. But those of us who were on the team, we would come earlier.
Yeah.
And then
I
people
was
would,
there too.
you were there too?
Yeah,
Everyone
but I wasn't as advanced as you guys.
probably, that's probably how we know each other, like from way back. I just got to know a ton of people.
A shame for somebody that grew up by sea, but
How do you mean the
no
swimming?
digress.
Between dropping yourself in the ocean and surviving and actually swimming and learning different swimming techniques, right, Daniel?
In the waves
Yeah, like
splashing,
they
close
don't
to the
they're
shore.
not teaching you backstroke and butterfly and how to breathe. Don't play yourself.
You'd have
There's
stones.
science behind that.
You'd have all the stones in the water, and then like if it raining, and then it had some days it was just like you see that oil barrel over there, all the way out in the ocean, swim to that and come back. You know, that's like how we learned to swim. So when Dr. Alport, Auntie Jenny, she got the swimming pool in Castle Comfort, that just was like, oh my God, it was a game changer because we were training in the ocean, and you know, with the salt water, like it's easy to float. So you think you're going fast. By the time we went to the swimming meets, we're in chlorine. Water is completely different. And so we just weren't competing at the same level until I think we got the pool. And then things just started to level up. And then, you know, the team got bigger, it got more popular. So that was like a big chunk of my life. And so it would be maybe 5 o'clock every day. So a typical day would be like 8 to 1, go to school, 2:30 to 4 o'clock, you're in after school, or I would go to piano lessons at a certain point. And then from like 4:30, 5 o'clock until like 8:30, 7:30, 8 o'clock, you swim in. Right?
Where
So
you did your piano lessons? You were by Mr. Christian or by Miss Later?
Christian, the one and only.
Okay.
Right? Because it was like, you know, by SMA, you just turn around, you just go straight down. It's actually really.
Was that your introduction to music?
Yes, in a way, like to musician playing music. So at that particular point as well, it's like we were just getting exposed to computers, right? We had a computer at home, we're playing games, we're always on MSN, Napster, Kazaa, we're downloading. And so dancehall and reggae was like the vibe at the time too. So with that, I ended up just DJing on the computer, virtual DJ.
Yeah.
Right? And Fruity Loops got introduced.
That's like a big thing.
You don't know, right? So we had virtual DJ, we had Fruity Loops. Those are two things that like popped up. So it was like, and I always like music, right? So people know me from back in the day. I was like a big Slim Shady fan, right?
Yeah.
Big 50 Cent fan, big Dr. Dre, like all of that stuff. And then so when I started making beats on Fruity, it was like just dabbling, but I wasn't any good at it, right? Didn't have any fundamental understanding of music. One day my father was like, hey, time for you to go learn an instrument, because my dad himself is a musician. He used to be in Liquid Ice back in the day, a Caraspan, he was a guitarist, right?
Wow.
So that's important for the next part of the story. He was like, you should go play piano. And I was really reluctant. I didn't want to go to the lessons. I'm like, what are you going to go and learn piano for? What's the point of that? And it was like, you don't have to learn to be a musician, but you just learn it just to know, right? You go somewhere, you show off, you can play a little thing. It's just for the sake of just knowing how to play piano. So reluctantly, I went to classes for about 2 or 3 months. I was making progress. We had the piano at home. And then it was around that same time I started to meet the other guys in Goodwill starting up Cross Vibes. It was called Demolition Band at first, but went on to be Cross Vibes. It was like, we would start, I was going to be the pianist, play keyboard, but then we got someone who could actually play keyboard already. Then it was like, okay, I'll sing, right? Because I was writing songs, I was making beats. Then we got someone who could actually sing already, right? They were good. I was like, okay, that's safe. We had a drummer, we had a bassist, we had the engineer, but I'm like, man, I want to like get involved in this. My father had his guitar under his bed collecting dust, right? We didn't have a guitarist. So I just started learning the guitar. The first song I learned to play was WCK Back Together.
Wow.
Right? You remember that song? That was the first song on guitar I learned.
Wow.
So that's around 2005, actually. That's when that song came out, Back Together.
So I mean, you talked a lot about the role that learning music played when you were younger, and you also talked about swimming, right?
Yeah.
So basically, these two extracurricular activities you think really molded who you are today?
Yeah, in very specific ways that I wouldn't have expected, because like in that time there, it was like I was just playing music and I liked music so much that I was like, okay, my brain was just so consumed with it, right? I didn't really have a long-term plan. Someone asked me one day, like, Daniel, you want to be a musician? You want to be a rapper? You want to do this? I was like, I didn't have like a solid answer, but I just really enjoyed it, right? I just like being involved in it, and like, but it wasn't like definitive. That's what I wanted to do 100%. There's
How
always
was
like,
it? How was the support from like your parents though? Because you come from a very creative family. Like, you can, let everybody remind everybody who your mother is, and then you have your sister out there doing her thing. Like you come from a very creative family. Like how was this support like with you trying to figure out what you really want to do? And
kind of just left me to my own devices, to be honest. That's how it was. Like my mom, she always working. She just goes. Like she does her own things with like the flowers when she was doing events, and like that's just sort of how.
who's your mother, for anybody listening who doesn't know?
Boy, well, my mom, I don't know what she is. She runs Rose Street Gardens right now, right? Best place to quarantine in Dominica, number one. My mother have 30 something plus years in Dominica running businesses from flowers, party supplies, event rentals, wedding planning, sorting out your catering for you, the staffing services, just lots of businesses over the years. And then my father worked for the government, public servant, as long as I know him, right? My sister, she's a makeup artist. My brother himself, he's a
Sorry,
comedian.
she's not just a makeup artist.
She's a makeup artist. She's an entrepreneur. She's a marketer. She's an influencer. She have plenty titles as well, right? I don't have my mouth will go dry trying to list all of them, right?
So that creativity, it really really runs in the family. So what you did in school? Like, did you do like some art subjects, or what was your high school like? High schooling like?
So from like first form, I was always drawing. I like to sketch, right? That's how I started getting into art, right? Like growing up, I love Jumanji, for example, right? I love that movie when it came out. And you remember those old yellow legal folders? I would take those and then like make my own board games, right? I used to just draw, right? And so going into SMA, I was just drawing. My friend Kimal, who is on the swimming team, he was drawing as well. So it's like we swimming, we drawing, we swimming, we drawing. That's like first form, second form. In terms of like the creativity, like I was always just left to my own devices. My mom, she's a creative person. My dad, it was just like, hey, go do whatever, right? You show it off. It's like, cool, just keep on, you just do it. It's just like everyday life, right? Just like my brother Damon, he was painting at the time. My sister paints too. My other brother Dante, he's also a musician. At one point, we had like the whole band in the house. We had a drum set, the piano, the bass. We had a steel pan. My mom was like managing a steel pan orchestra, right? At a certain point in time, right? We had the whole warehouse, people learning. So we got a little single tenor in the house. So it's like music, for example, is just always around. It's down the street, it's in my house. And then going in through SMA, that's how I got to make, I guess, bond with people a lot more. It was like through music, right? Music was one of those things. It's like, well, we might not be from the same place, from Goodwill, we don't know each other, but like we both love this album right here. We like freestyling. We recess time, you just spitting bars, you talking about beats and rappers. That was sort of like, and then even after school, and then so you get into the freestyle battles. That was a big thing. And then the man was doing that in the swimming team too. You had like Devin, Kedron, Popo. He used to freestyle. He was a deadly freestyler, and swimmer freestyler too, It's a real talk.
So do you think that high school created so I know your friends were into that, but did the high school itself, their curriculum, really help you creatively, or you had to do your creativity, or you had to do that after school hours?
As after school, like in school, the teachers just take my notebooks, my drawings, my rhymes, everything. They just take it from me, from my Pokemon cards, anything, right? That was creative. They just deprive me of it. Even reading, because I used to I love the Harry Potter books, right? So as they were coming out, I was reading them like under my desk, math happening. I have the book under my desk. They taking my book from me, right? So like going to school, I was not a great student, right? Like going through SMA is like, if I get an A on something, it's just like, oh yeah, that's what's up. I killed it. Chemistry. I was a science student actually. I wanted to go into business and study French. My third form at the time, like I ended up doing Spanish and then did sciences, right? The family and everyone always encourage you to do science in the
Yeah.
sciences.
So
So
that's
like,
what
That's the story, the typical Dominica story.
sorry, yeah. It's
Mhm.
always science, and then you have to figure out what you actually want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Right.
mean, like,
Right. And then when you get different teachers flipping in and out, so you never really get like, I don't feel like I had like a consistent experience
yeah.
during that time with the science.
Mr. Lance, you had Mr.
Mr.
Lance.
Lance was consistent. Yeah. You were there on the same time. Yeah. Lance, he was consistent. Right. I did IT. So I learned how to type and then learn how to do some coding on
You
Turbo
know,
Pascal. That's where I learned
Yeah.
to type.
Well, according to Devin, that wasn't IT, that was,
that was basic stuff.
Intro.
Yeah.
Yeah. Intro. This is a document. You can bold.
So, Danielle, stick.
Fifth form towards the end when you had to like code, and then even then it was like you were doing a lot of things on your own anyway. It didn't really happen in school. I find not enough that like I can remember what the classes were
Yeah.
about. It was just like go home, download some templates, learn from that. That was kind of it with school. And then fourth form actually is when things got interesting because that's when I was really starting to pick up with music on my own. But then afterwards, got involved in student council and then was doing the Spanish club. And so we did like, those were actually another set of things that I did do at the school where I got to be creative, right? We had the Spanish club, did some events to try and raise funds to start an account to do the exchanges. Because at SMA, they had the French exchange, but they didn't have a Spanish exchange.
Yeah, I did that.
Right. So we were doing some events, just like brought PlayStations and Xboxes, play bingo. Remember in Dominica, they had a time, it had that place where you just go pay $5 and you can sweat.
Ball of Joy.
Ball of Joy.
Bridge.
Ball of Joy was one, but you had another place where everyone is always playing DBZ, like Budokai or something like that. Like all the fighting games.
That had to have been before my time.
No man, you
I
were
know
around there.
what you're talking
It's like those houses, right? Like it was like they had it like a business. It was like they had one close to the
I
ice
remember
cream
there
place
was
in
like
Kennedy.
a spot in right before you go Goodwill, and it was a bunch of, I don't know if you're talking about the same thing, but it was like arcades. That's what you're talking about?
The arcades was there, but that's slightly different. Like this, what I'm talking about, like people actually had like Xboxes,
Oh,
actual PlayStations, big TV.
Was it close to Cable and Wireless there in the little?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
I
I
don't know what you're talking about.
yeah.
Yeah, so that people would just go there and like play Need for Speed, bet $5, bet $10. That's like an after school activity. So we did that same thing at SMA. Like that was like something we were doing, and made a good bit of money.
I was gonna say you were a businessman even in high school. You was hustling in high school.
Social entrepreneur maybe, because I didn't get profit. I didn't get to keep any of it.
Well, it run in your blood, so okay. So you talk about your high school experience, right? So you are a dual citizen, correct? You are Canadian and Dominican.
That's right.
Right. So at what point did you say, I gathered what I gathered here, and now it's time for me to go to my other country?
That wasn't my choice. That wasn't my choice at all. Right? I didn't have
one day and you're in Canada.
By the time I had finished SMA, I was like so consumed, I think, with like trying to be in a band that I wasn't like, and having fun. Like I finished school, I had braces all the way through. I finally took my braces out. It was like, okay, like school finished, I free up now, right? And then I went to college for 1 month, and then it was like my mom was saying, okay, time for you to go to Canada. You're gonna go to this school, you have to get your education. But I'm like, again, Daniel being reluctant, right? Like with the piano. But it was in October. So all the time in September, I'm telling people like, I'm just at the college for a month. I'm not staying, I go into Canada. And people are like, yeah. That's what everyone says, right? And then afterwards, the day before I left, I'm like, guys, I'm gone. They're like, oh, for real? So even for me, it was like the same thing. I was like, oh, this is for real. I'm actually leaving. Because it was like at that time, I could not imagine what my life in Canada would look like. It's not like I grew up there, right? I grew up completely in Dominica, right? If I went to Canada, it was like a holiday, 1
Did
month.
you have any family over there that you knew that you were going to meet and, you know, it would be like a seamless transition?
I knew it had family there, but my situation was I didn't go to stay family. I went to stay at a boarding school. It's in Hamilton, Ontario. It's like an hour and a half outside of Toronto. Everyone we know is in Toronto, right? So I had like my godmother's there, some of, you know, like other relatives. So that's who I knew was there, but I went to stay at the boarding school. I had an uncle who lived at like one of the other cities nearby. You know, they're there, but it wasn't like, I wasn't staying with anybody. I was like at the school. So
boarding school, you say? From what I hear about boarding school, it's like strict, like basically like SMA but on steroids.
Basically like SMA.
That's, I don't know. Like let's just put it this way, right? Like I mentioned, like in front SMA, I didn't feel like very engaged. It was just like a chore, right? That's what it felt like to me. I got through the CXCs and stuff like that. I had to, at the time it had basic and general math. And like I had done well. I started in the general, they put me in the basic. I didn't like it. So I was like, I was ducking the class to study the general textbook on my own. And I ended up doing the general CXC by myself without the school. And then like I ended up what's up. But like aside from that, when I actually went to boarding school, that's when I actually started to focus, right? That's when I was like excelling at things. I actually liked studying, and the things that I was studying.
You didn't have no VNEG to follow.
You had no distractions.
The distractions were, yeah, you pretty much on lock, because like my day-to-day is like so many distractions. I have a whole music group. We have student council, I had swimming, and then I was also doing martial arts. So it's like I was teaching swimming, right, on the weekends as well. And the money I made from that, I was using to pay Shanna Robin for martial arts, like on a couple nights a week. So it's like, that's how busy I was. So like school, I wasn't as engaged as I was with everything outside of school until I went to boarding school at CIC. And then it was like focus. In SMA, you do 13 subjects like at once throughout the year at one point. And then at that school, the most I did was 4 at a time. But I was in school longer, the assignments were bigger, it was more thorough.
But what stage was like boarding school at? Like, was boarding school like a repeat of like of high school, or was it like how did it fit in towards like university? How?
So 5th form is the equivalent of grade 11, and high school goes up to grade 12. So I went to do grade 12.
So you did like a 6th form.
I did 6th form, is what we would call it. And then that year is what gave me credentials to go to university. My CXC, I can't tell you what I have on CXC. I haven't looked at. The day I got the results, that was the last day I saw them. That was it.
Maybe that's why they send you Canada.
Probably.
So what did you study once you got to university, and how did you choose that university?
Oh man, random. Just like in a barrel. Just I took a revolver and just went, okay, I'm going to this school. Zero again, like there was like no thought went into that process, because I told you I left Dominica in October. By December, the way the school year was, I had to already pick a school. Right? So in less than 2 months, I had to determine where I was going to go to school. And I didn't have like a full idea of where everything was, like location wise, what was the difference? It was like, I'm literally just trying to figure it out here now. All right, trying to manage it. Like being at the school, it was strict because we did stay at a residence. Doors closed at like 10 o'clock. If you locked outside, you stay outside, or in the lobby kind of a thing. That's like where they were. And then you'd still get detention and that sort of thing. So I was just trying to get a handle of things. And then I was like, okay, University of Ottawa, Carleton University, University of Toronto, whatever. And then I picked like Ottawa schools because I was like, oh, it's in the capital of Canada. This is kind of cool. Not knowing how far Ottawa actually was from where I was in relation, right? Ottawa, for context, is like a 5-hour drive from Toronto.
Wow.
So, and everybody I knew was, we're in Toronto. So I ended up going to Ottawa.
So did you know anybody else who was trying to go to Ottawa?
No, like absolutely. It was like, close my eyes and just pick.
Did you see any Dominicans there? Because I feel like Dominicans everywhere in the world. Alaska, Ottawa.
In my second year at Ottawa, I found out that I had some relatives, the actual family, blood family, their cousins and an uncle and an auntie.
Yeah.
Surprise, I didn't know they were there at all. You know how I met them? There was a Caribbean event and I was playing keyboard in one of the bands that was performing.
Wow.
So I'm at the event, right? So that's where the music came in, right? Once I got to university, I found a band. So we started playing some music. Again, so like at that point again now, music come and trouble me. I was at the event, I had a Dominica flag on me. Lady came up to me, was like, hey, excuse me, you're from Dominica? Let me see your face a while.
What?
Oh, so and so is your mother, not true?
Oh, I know.
Father?
Oh, you
Exact-
from? Oh, okay. Oh, you know my over. No.
Yep. And then they're like, oh, I'm your auntie and this is your cousin. I'm like, for real? And then like I call my dad, I'm like, is this true? He's like, oh yes, they're there. Yeah, for sure. And so I was just like mind blown. So I had like a whole group of cousins that I like, all my age group, same, we're best friends now, right? But it was just like total surprise.
So what did you study at in Ottawa? What was the plan? Like because you finish boarding school and you decide to go to university.
Yeah.
And at university, you must have a plan. Like, I'm going to do this major because I want to be a doctor or a lawyer or something like that when I grow up. What was the plan when you left boarding school?
The man he don't have a plan. He's freelancing.
I didn't have a plan.
So what was the major? How does the system work in Canada? How was it like adjusting from the school system in Dominica to Canada? Was the differences? Like, what was the transition like?
So like in Dominica, when you go to study, it's kind of like they predetermine what you're going to study.
Yeah.
Right. So same thing kind of when I went to the boarding schools, like here's a list of courses you need to take, here's what you can take. And so it was like small options. When I went to university, like I said, I didn't really do enough research about it. It was just like, okay, I'm going to university. It's probably the same thing as this, right? Really didn't know much about it. I picked psychology to apply, right? Because again, it was like less than 2 months I had to like arrive in Canada, learn the transit system. The time differences, used to be in school 8 to 1. Now I'm in school from 8 till 4. Plus you have a whole set of assignments. And so I was very focused on like trying to excel at the courses that I was taking and like didn't really set up a whole university plan. It was kind of like, okay, this is where I am right now. I picked psychology just to get in. That was the first plan. The main thing was just get accepted. Did the first year of courses. It was all electives, which is useful. In Canada, it's like your first year, it can be all electives, and then you can switch your major out at any time as long as you have the right GPA, right? Your grades are in order. The switch from high school now, Canadian high school to Canadian university, that was a bigger difference for me. That one was challenging. Going from Dominica to the boarding school was easy because it was international and there were a lot of Caribbean people there, a lot of Africans there, multicultural. And so it was kind of easy to like mesh and find my tribe, so to speak. University, it was like just like a massive campus, 50,000 people, 50, something like that, 50 to 50,000 students.
Wow.
And like mostly now Canadian. So at my last year in high school was like, I'm all with international people from the Caribbean, Mexico, Africa, and we're like kids that now you're in university. It's like, okay, here's now Canadians, native Canadians. In the boarding school, it was easy to relate with people because everyone was different.
Yeah.
For me. So you get to know each other based off your differences. Be like, oh, what do you do in your country? Oh, what's up in that country? Oh, that's an interesting name. What does it mean? How do you, like those are easy things to bond over, I found. Versus when I got to university, it's like people who grew up in Canada. I still have a thick Dominican accent.
I was just gonna say, these people even understand what you were saying?
They didn't understand what I was saying. So it's like, even at a certain point when I got confidence enough to start speaking up in the classrooms of like 300 people, right? Like massive auditoriums, 300 plus people. If you want to ask the professor a question, anytime I would do that, like there was one time my accent came out, and like when I sat down after asking the question, I could hear all the murmurs in the room. Everyone's just like, oh, where is he from? What's that accent? What is he like? What's this and that? And so made me a little self-conscious, you know, like when you're sitting in an auditorium for a few hundred,
100%.
and then everyone's like,
I think we all
whispering
had,
about how you sound.
yeah,
Not
especially
like,
professors that doesn't have a diverse background.
yeah, that's one thing that the professors, like my school, it was actually it was multicultural with the professors in a way, but it really depended on like faculties and the
Yeah,
spread.
what classes you were taking.
Ottawa
So
has like very French, lots of very Arabic, and like very, you know, good bits of international in there. So like student wise, you had a mix, but like most of the professors like white Canadians. And so figuring out how they think, right? And like the way they process students, interacting with them. How do I perform? How do I write this essay? So like even like doing my essays at that time, it was like I was very self-conscious because I would write how I spoke.
yeah.
So I have to like go back, reread things, and like just that's when I was learning how to code switch. That was that whole process. I was learning how to code switch from like turning off like this island boy with a ponytail at the time. I'm wearing like these beads, wearing baggy clothes and thing, and then now it's like almost like a fish out of water. And then I had to learn to assimilate, to like blend in, and then you know eventually I did make a lot of friends throughout the school. I stayed there for like in the university for 5 years, so I bounced around different groups, and so like by the time I did finish, it was like I figured out how to,
Yeah,
you know,
blend in.
blend in. Yeah.
So before you started talking to people, did they make an assumption about where you were from based on how you look?
Um,
When people
Indian,
Indian,
Spanish,
Arabic,
Lebanese,
Yeah.
all of
yeah,
those
your
things.
look is
You have
different.
an Arabic thing going on.
Arabic thing going. I feel like you could be in New York. We call them Habibis. I feel like you
Habibis,
run
I'll
a
take that.
shop.
I've been called Habibi before,
Yeah.
right?
That term is co-signed. It's okay to use. It's all right.
I don't go around saying it. If they call me that, it's the same thing, right? People call me other things. If it's cool, I'm like, all right, yeah, man. If you want to call me that, like,
And to the
you know what I
community,
mean.
we would just like to say that if our BB is considered offensive in the community, we apologize.
Yeah, I have no idea, but you
So,
know.
so Danielle, it's funny. So you did your schooling in Ottawa,
Mhm.
and I mean, you talked a little bit about assimilating and trying to code switch and go from one thing to another, and then we find you in a whole other country. It's like you country hopping.
And
Yeah.
not just a whole other country that doesn't speak English.
The language.
Yeah.
Similar to, I mean, Canada speaks English, but you had to learn how to, talk in their accent. And now you say, all right, I mastered that. I'm going to go to a whole different country where I don't know anybody. How did that come up? And we know you sponsored. So we want to know what came over you and made you choose Korea versus some, a different place that spoke English.
In other words, my brother, how you end up Korea?
And not China.
Not China. Okay,
Yeah.
so the way that happened was I had graduated, right? 2012, I graduated. My mom was up there for the graduation. I'm giving her the tour of the campus, and then we see a flyer, right? TESOL, teach English overseas, get paid, right? So she just points it out. I look at it, I'm like, oh, that looks interesting. I should do that, because there were always those programs in the school. You can go abroad and volunteer. I wanted to, but I never did. So I saw that flyer, like, okay, I guess this is an option now. Because mind you, I went into university. I didn't really have the full plan figured out. I didn't have the end goal already pinpointed. So it was like psychology, conflict studies, human rights, criminology, social sciences. I ended up in sociology and criminology, tried to do LSATs. I didn't do well in the LSATs, right? So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna leave that alone for now. I don't think like I wanted to do that. Working some other jobs. Worked in a catering company with a ton of Lebanese people. That's where I got the Habibi.
Yeah, your people.
And then like went back to school, worked some other jobs, and I just wasn't satisfied. I saw that flyer. I did get certified that very summer, 2012, didn't do anything with it, went into working, and then it got to a point where I was like, you know what? that music thing taking is too much a hole in my pocket now. I'm out of school. I'm educated. I need to like figure out something for real now, right? Like, what's the actual plan here? So I didn't quit music altogether yet, but it was like, all right, I need to do something different. I'm not feeling it in Canada right now, right? It's expensive. There's too much hustle and bustle. I need a minute to go and figure myself out. So I got certified. I just went online and just applied for jobs. Just like, let's just go to Korea. Just another, close my eyes, let's just do this random thing.
Yo, you are out of control.
Yeah.
But this man, no compass.
What's
No
that?
compass.
No compass.
Yeah, I suppose so. But you know, not a, I
No,
wasn't,
the compass.
the compass was pointing me in its own direction, right? You understand? Like in religion, people will tell you that like God called them to do something.
Yeah.
Right? That's why how they would say it. It's just like it just took me. I'm like Korea. So I looked at the contracts because the way the contracts were, they were very attractive to me at the time. It was like you get full salary, they pay for your flight there and back, they pay for your housing, they pay for your transportation, you get fed lunch, and the salary just gets straight into your pocket, 3% income tax. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, I want that.
Yeah.
Of course. You want me to go over there? So the plan was to go there for a year, save some money, probably travel a bit and like shop my music around the world, right? Like
So-
that was maybe the
hold
longest
on.
plan I had.
At that time, you still talking about music.
I still talking about music. That goes to show, yeah. It was kind of like the little push for it, you know. It was like because I wanted to do it, like, but I didn't have the funds to like invest further to take it to where I wanted to, right? So I saw, okay, I wanted to travel and I wanted to work. It was just like bam, bam, bam. These three things, I can do this, right? Go to Korea, free money, travel, do music. Huh?
Were you interested in K-pop?
No, I knew nothing about. Let me tell you, when I closed my eyes and I did it, I literally, all I knew is Gangnam Style and there's North Korea. That's all I knew about Korea.
Yeah.
I knew absolutely.
What did your parents have to say when you say, you know what, mommy, I thinking of going, I really thinking of going over there. Like, you know what, I gotta do it.
I don't remember exactly what it was, but there was like a little like hesitancy, like, why you want to go there? It's like North Korea is right there. They'll just bomb you. Like,
Just
like, and that's pretty much what everybody said to me. They didn't say anything different than anyone else. Like when you think of that side of the world, like back then, 2014, it was like Psy, Gangnam Style, Oppa, like that was it. Everything else about Korea was war, North and South, which one you go into. That was literally the full extent of what I knew about Korea. I was just concerned about the check, right? That was really where I was at.
So they didn't have other countries that were available? Just Korea?
Yeah, but the one for Korea had the better deals.
Oh,
right?
say less.
Right? So it was like no experience teaching. The only teaching experience I had was from swimming.
Yeah.
Right?
You employ the ethos of the NYPD sergeant lieutenant we interviewed a few weeks ago. Is where the money reside.
Where the money reside, where the money reside. So you were there for you were immersed in the culture. So did you pick up a little bit of Korean?
Yeah, I can speak Korean pretty.
Did you what were the requirements for teaching English in Korea? Because one would think that you must know Korean.
Yeah.
A bachelor's degree and a passport from an English-speaking country.
So how do you teach somebody a language that you don't speak? Like, how do you teach your language if you can't say, hey, I'm not even gonna try to imitate Korean.
Exactly. We don't know nothing in Korean, so we don't.
I can teach you a word right now.
Make sure it's a good word because
Good
people
word?
tend to.
Teach me good evening.
Yeah.
Good evening. Okay, that one a bit trickier, right? For beginners, right?
Good evening.
It's a little trickier. Something like good. If you want to say good, is just like joa,
Wow.
joa, right?
Joa.
It's always in syllables, right? So it's like joa. And if you want to be polite, like, you know, in Spanish and French, you have like the extra thing to make it polite. You can say joa yo. So I don't know. Yo. Yeah, yo at the end makes it polite and you being like respectful, right? So that's what I liked about Korea. Like I like to say yo at the end of sentences, and it's usually like not professional or like whatever. But over there, it's like, ah, yeah, Joayo.
Joyo.
Everything, Joayo, right?
So they were, so they embraced you when you got over there.
Well,
That's
it
a
takes
no.
time. It takes time, right? When you go over there. I'll say that much, right? The culture over there is very, 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 very different. When they're with like blank canvas.
So hold on.
Uh,
When you say, don't give us general. Talk us through
yeah.
day one. You land in Korea. You never lived there before. You land in Korea. You have to meet your landlord for the first time. Talk us through that. At least the first day, first week. Give us that picture. Coming from Dominica. We're not even saying Canada. Coming from Dominica. Yeah.
Yeah. The first 48 hours were weird. Right? They were weird. So I literally came from Dominica. It's like Dominica, Canada 1 week, 18-hour flight straight to Korea, right? 14, 18 hours, right? No stops. Toronto to Seoul in Cheongsal.
Wow.
The whole time when I went through the application process, it was through Skype. So the only contact I had with the people there was through Skype. So buy my ticket, I'm halfway through the flight and I'm like, I'm just going to some random place in the world. I have a little bit of money in my pocket. So I'm starting to make a game plan. Like if this goes west, if I show up there and there's absolutely nothing, or it's actually trash, what am I going to do? Okay, I need to like book another ticket back. I need to do this. How am I going to do that? I don't speak the language. So I have like my laptop with some like words. So I started trying to get familiar with what the language looks like a little bit. I'm doing that on the flight there.
Wow.
I arrive at the airport, really nice airport, very smooth and busy. All right. So now this is me, fish out of water. You're looking around, everything is brand new. Everything. Never seen an airport like this, never seen a language like this. Surrounded by
You
Korean.
your Dominica passport or your Canada passport?
Canadian passport.
Okay.
So I was in Korea as a Canadian. Right?
Okay.
As a Dominican, I didn't go. I went as a Canadian teacher. That became very interesting later because it was like, I'll get there, right? So hold a thought in that. I reached the airport. I'm waiting around for like half an hour. Somebody's supposed to meet me there. I don't see them. I'm like, okay, damn, I'm stranded at some Asian airport. What am I gonna do? It's like being on the plane. It's about 5 p.m. I find a hotspot. Luckily, they have internet. Get on Skype, ring down the recruiter that I was speaking to, and then they call the other person. They were like at the wrong gate. Showed up, Korean guy named John. All right, that's what I call him, John. Well-dressed, suit, brush, just like super corporate, right? If he wore white gloves, you probably think he's a hitman. You know, he was like that clean, right? How he showed up. I was like, okay, you're John. He's like, hey, you're Daniel. And I'm like, beat and dread. I'm like super dark and tan because I just came off the beach. And then everyone around here is just like Asian, pale, white, you know, like, so I stand out very much so. And I probably stink. That's like just how I was feeling, right? And the guy spoke English. He was like, okay, let's go. He brought me to get some food. I was like, oh, what is this? Like all the food is different. Like even a sandwich, I would look at a sandwich and be like, is that octopus in the sandwich?
Mhm.
Like what is kimchi? Like like I was seeing the food. It was like, now I look at it and it's just everyday food, but it's like, it was just incredibly foreign. Even the signs, like even when they were in English, like you know, if you went to a McDonald's, right? Basically, if I saw a McDonald's at that time, I was just like, yeah, let's go there. And I
I need a regular.
this is comfortable. I'm familiar with this.
You're not exploring today.
Yeah, like at that time. So we got some food. We get into a taxi and he's talking to me and I'm like passing out. I have no idea because the 18-hour, I think I went back in time. Or I stayed on the same day. So like I flew on the 17th.
Oh, yeah, because you would have flown west.
Yeah, I flew west. Yeah. So it was like, it was a weird, the time swap was different. I don't remember exactly what. I'd have to think about it.
Yeah, right. The shorter distance is west instead of east.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Kind of went north, and I'm afraid of the Pacific Ocean. Eh? That's the thing. My heart was racing going over the Pacific because one straight shot, we're going over like Russia.
Excuse me, sir. You decided to leave Canada and go to Korea. I don't think you have the authority to say you're afraid of the Pacific.
Is there's an ocean I'm afraid of flying over, it's that one. Right?
So when you landed, did you have like some time before you actually had to start your job?
No. So I landed, basically we got to the school, right? We arrived at the school from the airport. I'm at the school. They introduced
So John take you straight to the school from the airport, not even your apartment.
It was a Thursday at 5 p.m. I landed. I got to the school at 6:30, something like that. I'm already shaking hands. I'm meeting people, my suitcase there. There was a little mix up with my board. So like my room wasn't going to be ready until the next day. So I slept at the school because they had like a resident, like dormitories.
Oh, they had,
so I had like a room, right? It was dormitory style. So I was just there by myself now. So I went from an airport into a taxi, into an office, into a dormitory, and then here's some tea, right? They gave me some bottled tea. And then the next morning they knock on my door. Okay, let's go. Time for you to clock in.
How early?
8 o'clock. 8 o'clock.
Okay,
So
not too bad.
Knocking on my door, and I had to be in there for 9. So
and when you got there, it was about training first, right? They can't expect you to just teach.
well, as soon as I got there, I actually spent the first like 3 hours just sitting down waiting, right? There's like a teacher's lounge. So this school was pretty big. Why I chose that particular place, it had like 25 other foreigners who are all English speaking. So I wasn't the only person there. That was another thing. I picked this particular place. Because you could get so many different contracts. You could get a public school, you can get a private, but this particular school is like an English village. So it's like a camp. It just keeps running, and they have a ton of teachers.
Okay.
Right? So the morning, John walks me to the teacher's lounge, and I just sit down. Right? He's like, the head teacher will come get you. So I'm just like chilling. I'm seeing like people just coming in, people coming out, everyone's busy, they're not really paying me mind. And then like one guy was on his break, he sat down, and then he kind of gave me the rundown. He was actually on his way out, so he was kind of jaded, and like, I'm out of here, man, I'm sick of this. So it was like a rough first impression, like, oh damn, like what did I just do?
Yeah.
And then it was like lunchtime. I still hadn't done any onboarding. I sit down in the cafeteria, this guy named Kramer, like, you know, Seinfeld Kramer?
Yeah.
Real life version of that. Exact same, like a little same version, right? And he's just talking to me, rice in his mouth, in his beard, white guy from Boston. And then like older gentleman too, just like blah, 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 just talking. I'm like, I have to process where I am. Like now I'm in like a cafeteria of a bunch of elementary Korean children. This guy named Kramer in front of me. I'm at some random school. I slept in a dormitory. Like there's a lot of different things going on. My brain was just like, where am I? What's going on here? Right?
Jet lag? No jet lag?
Incredible jet lag. Right? And that's what made it worse, right? Because I'm like trying to stay conscious and like be aware of what's going on and take the cues. First things first, man, they gave me chopsticks, metal chopsticks, right? No fork and knife in Korea, chopsticks and spoons. And so I don't know how to use chopsticks, right? That was another thing, right? Metal chopsticks especially, I was like, how do you hold this? It's not the same as wooden. It takes a skill. So I'm just eating rice with a spoon, eating meat with a spoon, because it's just, you're awkward, just completely fish out of water, flopping on the sand, kind of a thing. Just trying to get through the next moment, right? Moment after moment. So that's like the first day. Eventually I meet the head teacher, they get me sorted out. They're like, okay, you're gonna teach this guy, you'll just start watching him. That was it. And then basically they just threw me into the job, right? There's training, you just observe for like a week or two, and they're like, okay, you ready? Okay, go ahead, it's all yours.
Well, let's do an example, right?
Okay.
Let's act like I'm a Korean elementary student.
I
don't speak English.
Okay.
So I'm just like,
So teach Renee English.
I'll teach you Korean. I'll teach you Korean the way I'll teach them English.
What?
Right?
But you don't know Korean. Day 2, you don't know Korean.
Yeah.
Okay, but Renee don't know Korean.
No,
Right?
I'm saying I'm a Korean student and you have to teach me English, but I don't know English and you don't know Korean. So how do you start off if I can't read or speak English to communicate what the hell you're saying to me?
Body language. People know how to communicate, right? So if I do this, hello, everyone knows hello, right? Hello is like universal word. So you start there. And then you got lots of PowerPoints, you got pictures, you do examples.
You do like you hold up things and say apple, like how you teach a kid?
So yeah, pretty much. And like you model the language, right? So a class, for example, it's like you have targets. So like, okay, we're gonna learn to say this today. You start your class with context, you make them engaged. It's like a level of edutainment. You have to make it entertaining, right? As you educate them.
Because I've seen you posted couple times where a group of your students with you, and I'm like, oh, they must love you because they all smiling and having a good time.
That's all you have to do. All you have to do is smile and wave.
So how did 1 year turn into 4 years?
Yeah,
I traveled all my money in the first year. So remember, I was there for the money.
I know.
But you didn't make the money in the
I
first.
made the money and I spent the money.
You don't travel for clout. Now I'm messing with you. You went to a lot of places, right? List them.
Okay, in the first year, first trip was Boracay in the Philippines. Then I went to Bangkok.
Did you dive?
I did dive. I did like the heavy helmet diving in the Philippines, in Boracay. Then I went a week or two later, I went to Thailand, and then I hit up Malaysia.
I love Malaysia.
After that, it was dope. I was there one day in Malaysia. I had a friend who I met at CIC at that boarding school. He came and picked me up at the airport in Malaysia.
Okay.
Right? Another way, when I close my eyes, you just make a friend like, hey, we're friends now. Like, I don't know anything about you. You're a DJ. That guy was actually a DJ too. So we became friends in high school, and there he is picking me up in Malaysia at the airport, bringing me around Kuala Lumpur.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's lots of things like that. After Thailand, I went to Japan, did Mount Fuji, climbed to the top overnight. That was maybe my
right? For like how many days? 3 days?
Just one night. Started at 7 p.m.
Wow.
Straight. You could do it in a weekend. The Japanese people do it in a weekend. Like, it's a family trip. There's hotels there. So you can like climb to a certain station, pull up.
Boil and making enough for me.
Boiling
enough for me.
But the hike is not hard, right? It's just long.
It's pretty hard at some points, like, because you just get tired, I suppose, and it gets colder, right? So I started off in like a tank top, and by the time I'm at the top, I'm in full winter gear.
Oh.
Once you say cold,
yeah, I'm not with that.
It's a no for me, dog.
But coming down was scorching hot, right? Because what really had the thing was I did it overnight. So 7 p.m. straight till 5 a.m. to the top, right? I did that hike by myself, and I made some friends along the way. You just meet people as you hike.
So for financial reasons, you decided to do. You went on to 4 years, but it's still a different culture and a different like vibe. Like, did you like at some point get so accustomed to Korea that you were like, you know what, we just continue in this?
That was the second, third, and fourth year. That's literally what it was, because it was like
I didn't think you were gonna leave. I was like, Danielle, every year you telling me I have 1 more year. I have 1 more year. And then the year I booked to come see you, you're like, oh, my bad. I'm going back to Canada. I was like, what the hell? You see, like, that's how it is. Most people go there and they say 1 year. If they don't leave after that 1 year, they likely stay for 3 years. If they don't leave at 3 years, they're there for 5 or longer. Yeah. Right? So I had done 4 contracts, right? You can get 1 year contracts. So that's how I was gauging things. Like, how did I feel at the end of this contract? Did I do everything I wanted to do? So it was like the first year went by, I traveled, I did all that stuff. After I went to Taiwan, did all that stuff, traveled all around Korea itself, right? And then the second year came, it's like, okay, I'm going to save money this time. This time I'm here to just work and save money. And then I was moving up in the school. So I ended up in a management position. And then I was running these international programs, one of which was like a Russian camp. So we had Russian students coming for the whole summer. Yeah, that was a lot of fun, right? That one was a lot of fun, to be honest. Like, Korean students are great, but the Russians were fun. It was just like, and like they were like high school age, and then we also had like their what they call them, the chaperones, who came on the trip. We were like all in the same age group. And so it was like fun. And then I was running the whole program. We were from like creating the curriculum to setting up the games, scheduling, training teachers, presentations, mentoring the students. So that kept me very busy for the summer, and I was making a lot of overtime. So I was loving it, and I was still traveling. At the end of the second year, I had a good time with that camp, and then I did my Euro trip. I remember.
The Euro trip was like a defining moment as well. Why? Because it was like I had saved up a good chunk of change, and I worked so much overtime that like I could take a month off and still get paid. Yeah. And that's what I ended up doing. I was like, I'm not going to get another chance to just go Europe for a month and be paid, you know?
Yeah.
And then it happened around the same time there was this, the attempted coup in Istanbul. And
Yeah.
so I was like, damn, man, I booked this flight. The cheapest way to Europe from here is through Istanbul. They just had a bombing. And that's
Yeah.
what my guest house is. What am I going to do? Should I go? Should I stay? And I'm like talking to the other travel foreigners and they're like, just live your life. Just
Yeah.
go.
Yo.
And so
People always say about Istanbul that have traveled to Europe. They're like, Istanbul at any time could always pop off. So are you never gonna go there?
I mean, that's how the terrorists win. That's why I was justifying it. If I'm afraid to go there because I'm like, well, isn't that how terrorists win? Right? Make me afraid to move around the world. So
Yeah.
nice cheap flight into Europe, just traveled. And then by the time I came back, bank account low again. I was like, not enough. This is not enough. I was spent too much time working here. I need to go back with more, right? Because just watching how things are in Canada is more expensive. And then like low-key didn't have the full plan set up. So I was like, okay, third year, and I'll get to do this Russian camp again. I'll work some more, get to be a bit more creative, build out this program. So it became, at first it was personal growth, and then it turned into like a professional decision. Like, I'm going to stay here and like write this out. Like I did a okay job, but I could do better in the next year. So I stayed to do that.
So
And
you
then-
always knew that you were at some point going to go back to Canada. You knew you didn't want to just stay in Southeast Asia.
I didn't want to.
I visited Southeast Asia, and I'll tell you, it's hard to leave.
Yeah.
And I've only, I mean, granted, I only did like, I only do like 2 weeks or a week or two, but like, it's cheap. The people are nice.
Yeah.
The food you get used to.
No response.
I mean,
The food is actually very good, especially in China. Don't make it food. China is
listen,
pretty good.
all the food I've ever had over there was delicious, but
Yeah, I tell food over there.
of course,
You can find it. You can find like vegan food. You can get
have
that. Southeast Asia. that's vegan.
noodles and all that.
Yeah.
But so my thing is, you didn't find it hard to leave. You wasn't like, oh man, this has been my home for 4 years. Like now I gotta go back to these Canadians when they, you know what I mean? Wasn't it weird?
Yeah, what happened on the 5th year? Why you decide, okay, that's it. We wrapping it up. We taking it back to the west. We're going back west.
The age started creeping up on you.
It started creeping up on me, but it was like one of the things that pushed me out, that like really gave me the push out. Like there's lots of things pulling me out, like Dominica. Like I was there so deep in the culture. Like I was sitting in an office surrounded by Korean, speaking Korean, dealing with this stuff on a day-to-day. And at a certain time, I was like, oh wow, I grew up in Goodwill on Earth Street. Like it actually just like hit me again, you know? And I was just like, wow, like, whoa, look where I am.
Yeah.
And that's where I grew up, holy crap. And then I had to actually print out some pictures from my desk to like
remind
my mind back on it.
Yeah.
Right? Because it was like totally out of sight, out of mind. I wasn't really keeping up with the day-to-day like before. It was like, I show up, I'm at work, I'm here like dealing with things in front of me and I'm just busy. The thing that really pushed me out though was like, you meet so many great people there, but then they always leave. So you're always making bonds and then you're saying goodbye. That was the thing, right? Because people
it was your turn to say goodbye.
So it's my turn to say goodbye, all right? Because it's like you meet so many great people, and then when you have to say goodbye and then make a new friend, it wears on you. That was kind of where I was.
Like the roots there.
So you had a good time in the East.
Mm-hmm.
You decide to say goodbye. You go back to the West, and then you go back to Dominica.
Yeah.
And you go back to Dominica, and that was around the time of Maria.
So I left the first time in 2017, and then like I was in Canada. That was 2017. Yeah. Maria hit. My parents were like, don't come to Dominica. It's kind of like another mouth to feed while you're there, right? Throughout the situation, and not much I could have really done. My mom had come out to Canada. We were talking about things. And so I was like, okay, I should probably just go back to Korea, because I was looking around for jobs in Canada. I didn't have the plan. So that's when I did the 4th year. So I did 3 years, came to Canada, and then I went back to do the 4th. The 4th, I went to like a public school and I was doing like the thing differently. And that year was just straight grind. The point of that one was really just work, no travel, no nonsense, just go, go, go.
Yeah.
And then that's when I decided to come back to the West in 2019. That's when I actually left. So the first 3 years I worked at a job that had me very busy. And then the last year I took a job in a public school. I was like, I had a lot of free time. So I went from teaching 50 hours a week to 22 hours a week. And then I had like the rest of the time to just watch YouTube, read, think, travel. I took another course. And then kind of just like more prepared for the return. And then so it was go to Dominica. Hadn't been there for real in a long time. I saw my grandfather like before Maria. But then like coming back to Dominica in 2019, it was like I was just there just to be back, right? Hadn't really, been at home for a while.
To like rejuvenate, to reset.
Yeah, to like come back to reality. And the culture shock was rough.
Oh, I remember you telling me about that. Like just seeing how it is to get things done versus coming from two big countries. You're like, this is crazy.
Yeah, it was funny because like I was complaining about Canada because Korea is way more advanced than Canada in terms of technology and infrastructure.
Yeah.
Like I was in Montreal for a while studying French, and then I was complaining about the subway delays, cancellations, fires, this and that, and I'm like, 4 years I spent in Korea, I never missed a bus, and a train was never late. Everything was clean. Everything's on time.
The type of subway system we have here.
That's the thing. The culture, I was just making me frustrated because I'm like, I don't want to stay over there, but y'all not making it easy for me to want to come back, right? Okay. And so, not much less for Dominica. So I was just in Dominica. I was working, hanging out at home, setting up, just catching up. And then it was supposed to be 2 weeks. It turned into 3 months, and then I came back to Canada, and then that's like just when I executed my return. It was like.
You're now back in Canada, right? So how did you get into business tech from hanging out in Canada to now having like an app which is essentially to advertise Caribbean people and products so that you can literally check in terms of check the website, check these people to get what you need. How do you get into that?
A lot of that came from the travels. Starting with the travels. So all the places I would go, like the best part was always meeting the people. And I would meet a lot of people who were just working from their laptop, travel bloggers, even lawyers, just freely roaming the world, doing what I was doing as a teacher, but they were doing it in a number of different ways. And then I got into it a little bit, doing some blogging, working on websites, and I was still doing music. I was trying to, not really doing music, but like in the 4th year, I was like DJing a lot. I was meeting more people, kind of like networking, right? So I was meeting more people from the Pan-African community, essentially people from the States who have like African heritage, Caribbean heritage, people from Toronto, a lot of people from Toronto in Korea, people from South Africa, people from Nigeria, like there's a whole community of Pan-African people in Korea, right? Across. And so we were doing events with them. Me and some other people from Toronto actually, and one from Miami. We were just, hosting events, artist showcases.
Wow.
We were doing all that in Seoul. Yeah, we threw like a big party in Busan. Busan is like the Miami of Korea. And so we had like a big Caribbean party.
I feel like I remember thinking, how is there soca in South Korea?
We put it there, right? They have people in Korea. There's like a whole dance group. They love dancehall reggae, right? Just dancing, right? They do reggae dance competitions, the girls and stuff. And so soca wasn't really there. The reggae was kind of there. And so we were like, let's just make this feel like home, right? And that was just a product of being there for so long. So like in terms of the networking, that was one thing that and that led into Checkwe, as well as being a travel blogger, like throwing up a website, thinking of social media, thinking of your content, thinking of how you're going to monetize online, just making laptop money, essentially.
Oh, who is the co-founder? How did you meet him? Also in South Korea?
Ron Abraham Jr., right? So that he had nothing to do with Korea, right? Ron, he's also from Dominica, he's also from Goodwill, right? Ron's father is the founder of Mapping, right? From back in the day.
Found out what?
Mapping.
Mapping telecoms?
Yes,
Yeah,
dog.
My
early
goodness.
founders, right? Founders, right?
Oh,
So
you're already in that.
That's DJ Stallion.
big up DJ Stallion one time, right?
Wow.
So me and Ron, DJ Stallion, again, we had another relationship for years, going back from music. Because he
Right.
was a DJ on Vibes Radio. I was promoting music. I was on Vibes Radio. He was like doing stuff with Vibes for like Creole Festival. He and I were like hosting on the radio for Fest one time. And like you just like the camaraderie of it. And then last year is like when he and I connected, right? I've been working. So when I came back to Toronto, I started a job in tech, right? All my travels, right? Learning how to do a website, my story, teaching. I know how to build curriculums and like, you know, use technology. Like that's how I make music. I'm behind computers all the time, right? As an artist, it was like, okay, write a song, record the song, mix the song, upload it online, get it on the podcast, get it there. You need logos, you need a website. So all of those different things I was exposed to, and then doing that as a traveler, right? It's just, that's how I just had the skills behind a computer. And then I was doing photography. So
You were doing so much. It's like your brain can't just stay on one thing.
that's the problem, right? Or the opportunity, right? It's just like, because I needed photographers. So I was like, I'm tired of calling people to do photography or edit a picture for me.
100%.
I just do it myself. I
Yeah.
want to do something, just do it myself. That was always the thing. And so you just pick up skills as you go. And then the job that I had at Career Teaching picked up a lot of other skills, such as like running an entire organization, right? Running a program, an international program with multiple stakeholders. You have teachers there, you have students here, you have the higher ups, you have parents, you have the, you know, there's a lot of moving pieces.
But Daniel, you know what I noticed about you is like, you're talking about those things and you're like, yeah, I just did that, just did that. But like to come up with an app and to come up with a business like that, you guys, I don't know, did you guys meet one day for a beer and was just talking about it?
Yeah.
Like, you know, like the Facebook, we all know how Facebook came about. But is it that you guys were just brainstorming and then you came up with that? And, you know, how do you see that going? And this would probably be my last question. How do you see Checkwee's future going in terms of stability and its success?
And how has the reception been so far? From since launch, how has it been received by the target audience?
So really good questions. So I came back to Toronto. It was last summer, COVID, lockdown on my computer. And it was just all about like, how can you make more money online, right? That was just the space I was in because of my job and what the economy was doing. And so Ron, he was in England and he's a digital marketer and I work at an e-commerce company. So glove in hand, right? That's how it is. It was just a perfect fit. We had a good relationship before. He was getting involved into teaching online, ESL, right? So I'm just talking to him about it. Here's kind of like what you do. Here's this stuff. Oh yeah, that's, you know, just soundboarding, like the stuff that he was getting into. And then we just like a lighter, you know, it's just like, oh, we should have like a Facebook group for all the people who are digital marketers, people who do graphic design. We should do a Facebook group. So that's what we did. We just started a Facebook group. And then that was July 2020. By December, you know, the group was just growing on its own organically. Not that many people, I think, maybe like 200, 250 people.
That's a lot of people.
I suppose so. And it was growing. We were very happy with like our hands off. We were like, we don't want to do anything with the group. We just wanted the group to be there. And then around Christmas into New Year's, it was like, can we do anything with the group? We have all these people here. Like, we need to like stimulate it somehow, right? You have all this talent, you have all these resources. Like, what can we do with it? You know, can we ask a certain question? Should we do like a webinar? Should we do something? And then the idea was like, yo, we should just do a platform, all right? Like, take them off Facebook and like, let's just make a platform like Fiverr, like Upwork. We call it Caribbean Digital Professionals. The idea is we want to get the whole Caribbean. Yeah. So it was like, okay, we build a platform that has people from Trinidad, Dominica, St. Lucia, Jamaica, everyone find each other. I want to work with a photographer in Jamaica if I need particular pictures. I have a song, I want to work with this guy in Trinidad, probably who knows how to mix it better. Maybe I can find some really good writers in Barbados, right? Because that was kind of just where we were at. The idea was just like, yeah, why doesn't this already exist? That was really it. And then we purchased the domain name, checkwe.com, on January 3rd, 2021.
Oh, wow.
And then we just went to building. We just started build. He knew how to.
Whose idea was Check We?
The name,
something you say.
Yeah.
We went through multiple names, and then like I can't remember which one of us came up with it, to be fair, right? Could have been me, could have been him, because we had like 20 different names, like Pepper Pot, Canoe, all kinds of things, and we were just going down there's all kinds of names, you know.
I like Check We because it's like we and it's like West Indian.
Yeah.
That's exactly it.
It's very Dominican too.
Yeah, that's why I was saying Danielle came up with that. Well, both all you Dominican, but
yeah,
y'all did well with that. And I mean, we have to wrap up, but I mean, we could talk to you for hours. You just have too many things on your.
Yeah, there's a lot. So like to just a quick summary. We just got to the domain. We did analysis. We were like, for that same reason, we were like, we check us, the man check. We like on a branding level, we were like, we can market this, right? That was it, and we just went to building. And so now you can sign up to checkwe.com, right? You can list your services. You can list a request if you need something done. Put it on the job board. If you want to just browse and see what's available, you can do that right now for free. Membership, no subscriptions, no paid subscriptions yet. You can shop on shop.checkwe.com. We just launched the podcast, the Checkwe podcast, where we talk to people about a number of different things in the entrepreneurship, digital economy. We're looking to, help people of the Caribbean transcend local and regional borders, right? They should be able to work with each other a lot more. Payments are an issue. Businesses can't scale locally enough. And then like the opportunity to just like take your laptop and make money is there for people. And it was also a thing to help with the brain drain. For example, we all go abroad to school, we study, everyone's like, oh, if all the people who study just come back to Dominica, everything will be better, blah, 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 blah. There's the same thing here for 25 years myself, right? So it was like, well, now you have technology, we can do it, right? Like I'm not in Dominica, but could still like probably put some resources to at least do something, right?
So checkwe.com, and y'all accept Bitcoin, I heard?
We accept Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin.
Yo, let me get in on this Checkwe, man. Right. I accept Bitcoin too.
Right? We accept Bitcoin, Ethereum, we accept cash, PayPal, all of that stuff. And then you sign up, list your services, you get paid in USD. The idea is we really want to make people in the region collaborate with each other more. Because that was a big part of like my journey. It was that meeting so many people internationally, and like I grew so much from that, even just from meeting other people from different islands, or there's no reason why the Caribbean shouldn't be able to do that.
So it's basically in its baby phase, but it's like, do you see it? I mean, I'm wrapping up there, but
yeah,
I see Checkwe like the Facebook for business professionals.
That would be great. That would be really great.
Don't forget me when you when you get to Facebook level.
Remember me, the Mali way.
I can't forget y'all, man. I can't forget y'all. I wanted to talk about the time Ren saved my life in Dominica.
She saved your life.
She saved my life in Dominica.
You have 2 minutes to talk about the time she saved your life.
We were scuba diving and I ran out of air under the water.
Oh yeah.
You ran out of air.
I didn't remember that. Yeah.
And when you dive in,
I was like, oh shit.
That doesn't quite encourage anybody else to go scuba diving,
But that was
Daniel's fault for not checking his gauge.
Anything else you want to plug before we wrap it up? We talk about Checkwe. Like I said, from a talented family. I saw you advertise in your mother's guest house the other day, and your sister. Like my own sister already messaged me 10 times and tell me, listen, 10 out of 10, I could recommend Dylan Fadelle's products, the body butters, whatnot, because my sister been on her shit from day one. And then, Rennie, I see Rennie was posting it too. So if I get it from 2 independent sources, that means that shit is lit. So, you can, now is your time to plug that before we wrap it up. Hopefully we'll probably have your sister on next season.
So many
Go
things.
ahead.
Okay. So let's start from the top. Checkwe.com. If you are a digital professional, you're an entrepreneur, check us at checkwe.com. Any job, anytime, just checkwe. Dale and Fadelle Beauty, get your vegan handmade lip glosses, body butters, men and women. Summertime is coming. Make sure you glisten. If you travel into Dominica, you want to go to rosestreetgardens.com. Place your booking right there. Right? Quarantine protocols in Dominica have changed. 3 nights minimum. What else we plug in?
Photography, check you in Canada if you want your, your engagement photos taken.
If you want that done, yeah, that's my other side hustle. For me, that's just like, I don't do a lot of music now because it's just time and the effort. Now it's just like the photography that allows me to stay in that world.
So you have full-time job, you have checkwe, you have photography, and then music if you get the time.
Music, that's just for me to enjoy myself. Like I have my instruments there, and so I don't know if you can see the guitar, but it's just, just to chill. That's I do that for myself now. Yeah.
All right, everybody, there you had it. Danielle Fadelle.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Giving us his life in a nutshell.
Very
value.
Thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate your patronage. Check out the store. Check out all of the content, all of the shirts, the hoodies, the leggings that we have on there with the cups. We have everything for everybody. Check that out. We have a few more episodes before we wrap up this season.
Yes.
Rennie, I'm gonna let you give the parting words and wrap it up before we go off air.
Yeah, so thanks again, Danielle, for coming. Always a pleasure. We will be checking we.com and we will be telling people to get on that website, just for also their business growth and their personal growth. And hopefully we see you back on here soon, man. When the Bitcoin start coming in, we need you back on here.
By the dip. Not financial advice though. Remember that.
You accept Dogecoin too. Buy some Doge and we'll be good. But
not financial advice.
Thanks so much for coming, and we'll tune into your podcast as well. Tune in to Talk the Thing. We have another guest coming up, Sadiq, who is going to talk about Connect 767. So thank you, Danielle, and we'll check you on Facebook. What's your Instagram name too?
At Danielle Fadelle.
That was easy. Check Danielle on Instagram to know more about him. And we'll see you soon, Danielle. Thanks a lot. I'll talk to you. I'll send you.
We'll talk. Raj.
Good night, everybody.
This is Checking
out.